The training arena of the Galactic Academy was silent. Not quiet, silent. Every sound seemed to hold its breath. Rows of alien cadets stood in a circle around the practice floor, their tails twitching nervously, claws half unsheathed. In the center stood a Predator Cub. Muscular, tall for its age, its fur streaked with black and silver. Its golden eyes burned like twin suns, fixed on the small human girl standing a few feet away. Her name was Ilara Wynn. She was 17, small compared to the others, with short dark hair and calm gray eyes. Her uniform hung loose on her shoulders. She didn't carry a weapon, no armor, no shield, just that faint, strange smile that made everyone uneasy. The cub's snarl rolled through the hall, deep and rough like thunder. The sound made one of the insectoid cadets flinch. Even the metal walls seemed to vibrate, but Ilara didn't move. The cub lowered its head, muscles tight beneath its fur. Its voice was rough, words shaped with effort through sharp teeth. "You think you can teach me, human?" Ilara tilted her head slightly. "Maybe," she said softly. "If you stop pretending to be scary." Gasps rippled through the crowd. One of the instructors, a tall reptilian named Instructor Vez, took a step forward. "Human cadet, step back," he barked. "That's a predator of Clan Ralcor." He didn't finish. The cub lunged, its claws hit the floor first, cracking metal plates. In a heartbeat, it was on her, jaws wide, teeth flashing. The crowd shouted, someone screamed. But before anyone could move, Ilara was gone. She had sidestepped barely an inch. The cub's claws tore through the air where she had been, and then she smiled. "Nice try." The cub spun around, snarling louder this time, furious that it had missed. But the human girl was calm. Too calm. Her eyes didn't show fear. They showed something else. "Focus. Do it again," she said. The cub blinked, confused. "What? Do it again," Ilara repeated. "You move like you're angry, not like you're hunting." The instructors were speechless. No one ever spoke to a predator like that. Not even adult soldiers. The cub roared and attacked again. Claws slashed. Ilara ducked under, spun, and stepped inside its reach. She raised her hand and stopped just before touching its chest. "See?" she said. "You roar too early. A hunter waits until the prey forgets the danger." Her hand rested on the cub's fur for 1 second. The beast froze. Its breath caught. The heat in its eyes flickered. She stepped back slowly. "Again," she whispered. Around the room, cadets watched in disbelief. The instructors didn't interfere. They couldn't. Every move the human made looked impossible. Too fast, too precise, too controlled. The cub growled low, humiliated and angry. But something inside it hesitated. It had faced opponents before, bigger, older, stronger, but none had ignored its roar like this one did. It crouched low, tail swaying, then leapt with all its power. This time, Ilara didn't move. She simply raised her hand again, open palm toward the cub. Something invisible filled the air. It wasn't power. Not exactly. More like presence. The cub's claws slowed an inch before her face. The muscles in its arm trembled, then stopped completely. Silence again. Ilara looked up at it. "There," she said softly. "Now you're listening." The cub stood frozen, its breathing heavy, its pupils wide. No one understood what just happened. Instructor Vez finally shouted, "Enough!" and stepped forward, grabbing Ilara by the arm. "What did you do? Some human trick?" Ilara shook her head. "No trick," she said. "He just needed someone not afraid of him." The cub blinked, confused. "You're not afraid?" Ilara smiled faintly. "Fear is a choice. So is control." She turned and began walking off the floor. In the observation booth above the arena, Commander Var watched with narrowed eyes. His scales reflected the room's lights, silver green, cold and hard. He had seen thousands of cadets in his years at the academy. None like her. He replayed the scene on the holo display. The speed of her reactions, the way she predicted the cub's movements, it wasn't normal. It wasn't humanly possible. He spoke quietly to his aide. "Run a neuroscan on Cadet Wynn's file. I want to know what kind of reflex training Earth is giving their youth." The aide hesitated. "You think she's enhanced?" "I think," Var said slowly, "that she's dangerous." Back in the dormitory hall, Ilara sat on the floor, back against her bed frame. Her uniform was torn at the sleeve where the cub's claw had grazed her. A faint red line crossed her skin, but she didn't seem to notice. She stared at her hand instead, the same one that had stopped the cub. It trembled just slightly. Still hard to hold it, she whispered to herself. A soft growl echoed from the corridor. She turned her head. The cub was there. Its golden eyes gleamed in the dim light. For a moment, Alara thought it had come to finish what it started. But then it sat down. Just sat like a confused, oversized cat. "What are you doing here?" she asked quietly. The cub tilted its head. "I don't understand you," it said. "You don't smell of fear, but you're small, weak." Alara gave a small laugh. "Weak doesn't mean helpless." The cub's ears twitched. "You stopped me." "How?" Alara hesitated. She looked at her hand again. "I didn't stop you," she said. "You stopped yourself. You just needed a reason." The cub frowned. "You think words are stronger than claws?" "No," Alara said softly. "But sometimes they go deeper." The cub didn't answer. It stayed a few feet away, watching her like a puzzle it couldn't solve. The next morning, the entire academy was buzzing with whispers. "Did you hear about the human?" "She faced a Ralcor cub and lived." "No, she beat it." Alara ignored them. She walked through the halls calmly, but every step felt heavier than before. She could feel eyes following her. Some curious, some angry. In the cafeteria, when she took her seat, 2 alien cadets moved their trays away. Humans were rare here. Most thought they didn't belong in a galactic war academy. Too emotional, too fragile, and now, too dangerous. Later that day, Alara stood again in the training arena. The cub was there too, along with Instructor Vez and a dozen other recruits. Vez's voice echoed through the hall. "Today's drill will test instinct and coordination. Cadet Win, you'll partner with your friend here." The cub bared its teeth. "He's not my friend," it said. Alara didn't look at him. "Then don't get in my way." The instructor threw a small drone sphere into the air. It blinked blue, then red. Suddenly, 10 holographic enemies appeared around them. Armored soldiers, simulated but deadly fast. "Begin." The first drone rushed forward. The cub roared and leapt, smashing one down with a swipe of its claws. Alara rolled aside, catching another's arm and flipping it to the floor. The holograms were fast, designed to mimic real battle, but her movements were precise, perfect. "Left," she shouted. The cub turned instantly, blocking a strike aimed at her back. She jumped forward, landing on the drone's chest and driving a training stick into its core. "Sparks burst, not bad," she said. The cub huffed. "You give orders like a commander." "Maybe I am," she said, half smiling. The instructor's eyes widened. He was seeing something he didn't understand. Synchronization. The human and the Predator moved like one unit, as if connected. Within minutes, all holograms were down. The hall was quiet again. Vez lowered his datapad slowly. "Impressive," he admitted. "But unnatural." Alara wiped sweat from her forehead. "You keep saying that word," she said. "Maybe what you mean is unexpected." When the session ended, the cub followed her again. This time, it didn't stay silent. "Why didn't you attack me that first day?" it asked. Alara didn't answer right away. She was walking along the corridor lined with starfield windows, their reflection washing her face in blue light. Finally, she said, "Because you were angry, not dangerous. Anger burns fast. Fear lasts longer." The cub frowned. "And you fear nothing?" Alara's voice turned quiet. "Everyone fears something. I just learned how to hide it." That night, Commander Var stood before the council hologram. On the screen, alien faces shimmered in the light. "Report," one of them demanded. "We received notice of a human cadet displaying abnormal control behavior." Var nodded. "Confirmed. Subject Alara Win. She subdued a predator cub using unknown methods. No tech, no telepathy devices detected. Perhaps instinct," another said. "Humans are unpredictable." Var's eyes narrowed. "It's not instinct. It's connection. That cub now follows her like a bonded partner." There was silence. Finally, one voice spoke. "Observe her closely, Commander. If she's something new, we need to know whether she's an asset or a threat." 2 days later, a storm raged over the academy domes. Rain lashed against glass. Alara was in the courtyard, practicing alone. The cub sat a few feet away, tail flicking. "You should be resting," Alara said. "So should you," the cub replied. "I don't rest well." The cub tilted its head. "You fight like us. You move like us. But you're human." Alara didn't answer. Her breathing was slow, steady. "Maybe I'm learning," she said. "Or maybe," the cub said softly, "you were never just human." Alara stopped moving for the first time. The smile faded from her face. Inside the command room, Var watched them through the surveillance feed. Rain streaked across the lens, distorting the image. But he could still see it, the way the human stood, the way the Predator mirrored her movements almost perfectly. He zoomed in on Alara's face. Her eyes flashed faintly, just for a moment, with something not entirely human. Interesting, Var muttered. Very interesting. The next morning, a message appeared on Alara's datapad. Training reassignment. Special combat evaluation. Commander Var's unit, guess the game begins, she whispered. The Galactic Academy woke to whispers. Rumors moved faster than light, carried through every hallway across every alien tongue. The human girl faced a predator cub and lived. No, she tamed it. They say she used some kind of mind control. Everywhere Alara went, eyes followed her. Some curious, some afraid, and a few jealous. The cub, Kor, walked beside her now. He wasn't supposed to. Predator cadets trained separately from humanoids, but after that day he simply refused to leave her side. The instructors called it disobedience. Alara called it choice. A new test commander Var stood on the observation deck, his silver-green scales glinting under the light of 3 suns. He watched the pair enter the sim chamber below, Alara and Kor side by side, like mismatched soldiers preparing for battle. He turned to Instructor Vez. Today, we find out what she really is. The chamber hummed to life. Steel walls shifted, forming a vast combat arena filled with holographic terrain, broken ruins, smoke, and flickering drone enemies. Alara adjusted the strap of her training vest. Same as last time, she asked, Kor's ears flattened. I thought we were done fighting ghosts. They're not ghosts, she said, smirking. They're lessons. Lessons that shoot back, she grinned. That's the fun part. The overhead speaker crackled to life. Simulation start, level 7 combat scenario. Objective, survive. The siren blared. Battle begins. The first wave came fast. Metal drones swooping in from the smoke, their wings sharp as blades. Blaster fire ripped through the air. Alara dropped to one knee, rolling behind a pile of shattered crates. Kor roared and leapt high, slicing a drone clean in half with his claws. 2 more on your left, Alara shouted. I see them. Kor's tail lashed as he spun, claws flashing. Sparks flew. Alara sprinted toward the control node at the center of the arena. A drone's beam grazed her shoulder, searing fabric and skin, but she didn't slow. Her hand shot forward, slamming a signal disruptor into the console. Now, she yelled. Kor dove forward, smashing through a second wave as the disruptor pulsed. Drones froze mid-air, systems flickering. The two stood panting in the smoky quiet, surrounded by wreckage. Alara looked at him. You still think I'm weak? Kor bared his teeth, but this time it wasn't a threat. Not anymore. Watching from above from the control room, Commander Var's eyes narrowed. They're not reacting, he said. They're anticipating. She reads his movements before he makes them. Instructor Vez's tail twitched. Impossible. No human can track predator reflexes that fast. Var rewound the footage in slow motion. On the holoscreen, Alara moved almost before Kor did, like she already knew where he'd go. Not impossible, Var said quietly. Just unnatural. The simulation reset. The ground shifted beneath them, opening into a second stage. Now the enemies were smarter, artificial beasts with real teeth and claws. The largest one, a quadruped with red armor and glowing eyes, towered over them. Level 8 threat, Alara murmured. Cute, Kor growled. You call that cute? The beast charged. Kor leapt first, slamming into its side. It barely moved. The creature swung a heavy paw, striking Kor across the ribs. He hit the floor hard, breath knocked from him. Alara's heart kicked. Kor! The monster turned toward her. Its breath was smoke and static. She backed up slowly, eyes locked on it, waiting, timing, watching the rhythm of its steps. When it lunged, she didn't run. She stepped in. Sliding beneath its swing, she jammed a pulse stick into the armor seam at its neck. Electricity burst, white and violent. The creature howled, collapsing in a shower of sparks. Kor groaned, pushing himself up. You're insane. Probably, she said, helping him stand. But it worked. After the battle, when the simulation ended, both of them stood covered in dust and static residue. The doors hissed open and Commander Var stepped in, his face unreadable. Cadet Win, he said, voice sharp. Explain how you coordinated with your partner. Alara frowned. We trained together. You trained for 2 days, he said. Yet your timing matches perfectly. That doesn't happen by chance. Kor stepped forward, growling softly. Maybe because she listens. Var ignored him. You felt her orders before she spoke, didn't you? Kor blinked. No. She just moves right. Alara crossed her arms. Commander, if you're done accusing me of being good at my job, Var's eyes flashed. This isn't skill, cadet. It's something else. He turned and walked out. Report to medical tomorrow. Full neural scan. Alara stood there for a long moment, jaw tight. Then she whispered under her breath, not again. The scan the next day, cold light filled the medical lab. Alara lay on the scanning table while machines hovered above her head, lights pulsing. Technicians moved around quietly, not daring to meet her eyes. Commander Var watched from behind the glass. The neurodisplay flickered with complex lines and colors, but something was wrong. Readings don't match human norms, said one of the technicians. Var leaned closer. Explain. Her neural sync rate is elevated, almost identical to Ralcor physiology. Predator physiology, he asked sharply. The technician swallowed. Yes, sir. Var's expression hardened. Run genetic verification. Moments later, the screen flashed red. Human genome 86%. Unknown 14%, he exhaled slowly. So that's your secret, Cadet Wynn. In the shadows that night, Alara sat alone in the courtyard, rain dripping from the edges of the dome. Kor found her there, sitting with her knees pulled close, staring into the artificial night sky. They scanned you, he said quietly. She nodded. They always do. He crouched beside her. Always? Alara sighed. Back on Earth, I was part of a program. They wanted soldiers who could survive alien wars. So they changed us, gave us faster reflexes, stronger instincts. They called it Project Unity. Kor tilted his head. Unity? They mixed human DNA with samples from other species, she said. But they never told us which ones. I thought it failed until I came here. He stared at her for a long time. You have Ralcor blood. Maybe, she said. That's why I could stop you. Why I could feel what you were going to do. Kor's tail flicked. You're half predator. She smiled faintly. Half something. The Bond days passed. The academy treated her differently now. Half respect, half fear. Some instructors avoided her. Others watched too closely. But Kor never left her side. During training, they moved together like shadow and flame. When she fell, he caught her. When he stumbled, she pulled him up, and slowly something deeper began to grow. Trust. Not the kind taught in drills or manuals, something instinctive. Wordless. One evening, after a long session, they sat on the edge of the viewing platform overlooking the stars. The air smelled of metal and ozone. Kor broke the silence. When you said nice try that day. Why, Alara smiled. Because you wanted me to fear you. And I didn't, he tilted his head. You should have, she looked out at the stars. Maybe, but fear never teaches. It only controls. He thought about that for a long time. The commander's plan far below them, Commander Var spoke to Instructor Vez in the darkened control room. She's more than human, he said. She's a weapon. One the humans built without telling us. Vez's eyes narrowed. You plan to report her? Var shook his head. No, not yet. We'll test her further. Push her limits. Find out what she becomes when she's afraid. The test of fear. 2 days later, Alara was summoned to the deep simulation chamber. No briefing. No explanation. Just her core and a locked metal door. When they entered, the lights went out. Simulation override engaged, said a mechanical voice. Subject fear responses active. Alara frowned. That's not standard. Then she heard it. A whisper. Familiar. Human. Help me. Her breath caught. That voice, it was her mother's. Stop, she said, looking around. End simulation. The voice grew louder. You left us, Alara. You ran away. Kor looked at her, confused. Who is that? She didn't answer. The holographic floor shifted, showing images, her home in ruins, fire everywhere. The last day she left Earth. This isn't real, she said, gripping her head. It's not real. The projection of her mother turned, eyes hollow. You think you can hide what you are? Stop it, she shouted. The system didn't stop. Terminate the hybrid. Too dangerous. Alara dropped to her knees. Please, stop. And then something inside her snapped. Her eyes glowed faint silver. The air vibrated. Core stepped back as a shockwave rippled through the chamber, cracking the holographic floor. The illusions shattered like glass. When it was over, Alara was standing in the center, breathing hard, fists clenched, eyes glowing faintly. Core whispered, "Alara, what did you just do?" She looked down at her hands. They were trembling. "I don't know." Aftermath. The doors hissed open. Commander Var stood there, expression calm but eyes cold. "Now I understand," he said. "You're the link between our species. The humans made you to bridge instinct and logic, to control predators." Alara stared at him. "You used me. You made me see them. I needed to know if you could resist fear," he said. "Now I know you can't." Her voice was ice. "You made me relive my past." Var's tone was almost kind. "Pain builds strength, Cadet Wynn. You should thank me." She stepped closer, her shadow crossing his boots. "One day," she said softly, "you'll regret that." The commander smiled thinly. "We'll see." Ending scene. That night, Alara didn't sleep. The storm outside the dome rattled the walls. She sat awake, staring at the faint glow in her hands. Core entered quietly, his claws soft against the metal floor. "They'll keep testing you," he said. "I know." He sat beside her. "Then we'll face them together." Alara turned. The storm never stopped. For 3 straight nights, thunder rolled over the academy domes. Lightning cut through the sky like claws across glass, and every flash lit up Ilara's face as she trained alone in the empty combat hall. Her hands trembled with each strike against the target dummy. Not from exhaustion, but from something deeper: anger, fear, confusion. Every time she closed her eyes, she heard her mother's voice from the simulation, whispering things that weren't true but felt true. "You left us. You were a mistake." Alara struck harder. The dummy's head snapped off. Her breathing came fast, shallow. She looked at her reflection in the mirror wall, hair clinging to her face, eyes faintly glowing silver. And she whispered to herself, "What are you?" The summons at dawn, the academy alarms blared. Red lights flashed down every corridor. "All cadets report to defensive stations. This is not a drill." Alara grabbed her gear and ran. Core was already waiting in the corridor, armored and ready. "What's happening?" she asked. "Fleet Command says enemy ships breached orbit," he growled. "Real ones, not simulations." "Who?" "No one knows. Not human, not any race from this sector." Her pulse quickened. "Then we fight." They sprinted down the hall together, joining the waves of cadets heading for the main hangar. Sirens screamed overhead. Alien instructors shouted orders. Explosions rumbled in the distance. Commander Var stood on the command deck, calm as a statue amid chaos. When Alara and Core approached, his eyes narrowed. "You two are not assigned to flight units." Ilara's voice was steady. "We're not hiding either." Var's jaw tightened. "This is not a place for experiments." She met his gaze. "Then maybe you should stop treating soldiers like them." For a second, silence stretched between them. Then Var turned away. "Fine," he said coldly. "You want to fight? Defend the North Gate. That's where they're landing." The first battle, the sky above the academy cracked open. Black ships pierced the clouds, shaped like blades and burning with blue plasma. Dropping pods fell like rain, each one carrying tall, dark figures wrapped in armor that shimmered like oil. When the first pod hit, the shockwave threw dust and debris into the air. The ground trembled. The air stank of metal and ozone. Core crouched low, claws digging into the dirt. "Those aren't raiders," he snarled. "They move too clean." Alara raised her rifle. "Then let's make them dirty." The battle began. Energy fire split the air. Alara ducked behind a barrier, returning bursts of blue light. Core charged into melee, slashing through 2 invaders before they could reload. A blast hit nearby. The shockwave knocked Alara down. Her helmet clattered away, rolling into the dust. She heard Core roar somewhere through the smoke. "Alara, I'm fine," she shouted, coughing. "Keep moving." But she wasn't fine. Her chest burned. And deep inside, something old, Something buried, stirred. The awakening. Another wave of invaders charged. One raised a blade toward her. She tried to raise her rifle, but it jammed. Instinct took over. She caught the attacker's arm barehanded. For a heartbeat, her eyes flashed silver white, and energy surged from her skin, running through the invader like lightning. He screamed, armor cracking apart. Ilara dropped him and stared at her hands. Faint smoke curled from her fingertips. Cor landed beside her, panting. What was that? She looked at him. I don't know. You do, he said. You've always known. No, she said, shaking her head. I didn't ask for this. Cor grabbed her shoulder. It doesn't matter what you asked for. You are this. Revelation. As the fighting raged, Commander Var watched from the command tower. When he saw Ilara's silver aura burning across the battlefield, his claws clenched on the rail. She's losing control, said Instructor Vez. No, Var said quietly. She's waking up. Should we stop her? Var shook his head slowly. If the invaders breach the line, we're finished. Let her be what she was made to be. The turning point. The battle lasted hours. The Academy's defense lines broke one by one. Smoke choked the air. Bodies, human and alien, lay scattered across the training fields. When the last energy barrier collapsed, Cor and Ilara stood at the front, back to back. Cor's voice was low. They're surrounding us. Ilara grinned faintly. Good. Easier to find them. You're insane. Maybe. You picked me. The enemy commander stepped forward, taller than any soldier, eyes glowing blue through the mask. His voice was deep and calm. Human hybrid, he said. You should not exist. Ilara raised her chin. Neither should you. He tilted his head. We were sent to destroy your kind before you destroy yourselves. The experiment ends here. And then, she understood. They weren't random invaders. They were the ones who made her. The scientists who created Project Unity weren't human at all. They were them. The truth revealed. You created me, she said, voice trembling. You made humans like me. The commander nodded. We gave you strength, instincts, power, but humans twisted it with emotion. Now you are unstable. Ilara's heart pounded. You turned me into a weapon. A failed one, he replied. We come to correct our mistake, Cor growled. She's not a mistake. The alien raised his blade. Then she will die as one. Before he could strike, Cor lunged. The blade met his side, cutting deep. He roared but didn't fall. His claws dug into the commander's armor, throwing him back. Ilara, he gasped. End it. She looked. At him, blood running down his fur, eyes fierce, and something inside her broke open. Silver light exploded from her body, rising like fire. The ground cracked. Every invader within 50 meters froze as if gravity itself turned against them. Her voice was calm now. Cold. Absolute. You wanted control, she said. Here it is. The air vibrated. The invaders lifted off the ground, suspended midair. Their weapons shattered into dust. Ilara's eyes glowed brighter than the storm above. And then, silence. When the light faded, the battlefield was empty. Only Ilara and Cor remained standing among the ruins. Aftermath rain began to fall. Real rain, not simulation rain, heavy and cold. Cor sank to one knee, clutching his side. Ilara ran to him, kneeling down. Hold on, she whispered. You're going to be okay. He gave a weak laugh. You always say that. Because it's always true. He looked up at her, eyes dim but still warm. You stopped them. I lost control. He shook his head slowly. No, you finally found it. She smiled through tears. You talk too much. And you smile too much, he whispered, before slumping forward into her arms. The council's verdict hours later, the fires were out. The academy stood in ruins but survived. The few remaining instructors gathered around the command table as Commander Var gave his report. She destroyed the enemy force, he said flatly. Vez hissed. At what cost? She could level this planet if she loses control again. She saved every life here, Var replied. And if she turns against us? Var looked out the window where Alara sat beside Kor's medical pod, silent, watching the storm fade. She won't, he said quietly, because she's not like us, or them. She's something new. Ilara's choice days passed. The warships retreated beyond orbit. Repairs began. But whispers still followed her through the halls: hybrid, weapon, savior. Ilara ignored them. Her focus was on Kor. His wounds were healing, but slow. When he finally opened his eyes, she was there beside him. You stayed, he murmured. Always. He smiled weakly. You could have left. I could, she said softly. But you're the only one who never saw me as a monster. He blinked. That's because you aren't one. She looked out the window at the stars. No, but I'm not human either. Kor tilted his head. Then what are you? Ilara thought for a moment. Then she whispered, something in between. Something the galaxy hasn't named yet. Final scene weeks later, Commander Var met her on the training grounds. The Council wants you on a new assignment, he said. A peace envoy between human and Predator colonies. Ilara raised an eyebrow. You think they'll trust me? He smiled faintly. They don't have a choice. She looked past him toward the horizon where the twin suns were rising. Kor stood there waiting, his armor polished, his expression proud. Ilara took a deep breath. The air felt cleaner than ever before. Do you know what I whispered to Kor that first day? She asked Var. He frowned. What? She smiled. I told him he'd make a better soldier than I ever could. Var looked at her puzzled. Why? Because he still had something to fight for. She turned away, walking toward Kor. The light of dawn caught her face, silver in her eyes glowing faintly. Beautiful and alien, human and predator, one and both. As the ship engines roared to life behind her, she whispered almost to herself, Nice try, and the galaxy would remember those words for centuries. The day a predator snarled, a human smiled.